The Galactic Union had been keeping an eye on Earth for years, ever since the planet first made contact with the stars. The alien civilizations had watched humans with curiosity but little concern. They saw Earth as a primitive, fragile world, nothing more than an anomaly in the vast expanse of the cosmos. Their technology was crude by galactic standards, their biology weak compared to the towering ancient species that inhabited the Union. Humanity was barely an afterthought, mostly ignored or treated with dismissive kindness. At a diplomatic summit on the neutral planet of Viren, where delegates from various species gathered to discuss galactic politics, Earth's representative was Dr. Elias Rain, a humble scientist with little interest in the political games of the galaxy. He was not a diplomat by nature, but he had been selected to attend the summit due to his academic contributions in physics and temporal theory. On the day of the event, he was dressed in the standard garb of a human academic, a simple suit, dark and unassuming. Around him, the other delegates wore the intricate, ceremonial outfits of their civilizations, shimmering cloaks, golden armor, and flashing jewel-encrusted helmets. To them, Elias stood out as something less, an ordinary human, frail and unremarkable. It was in the middle of a long, tedious conversation about intergalactic trade routes that the demonstration happened. The debate had been getting heated, with voices raised, gestures animated, and tensions rising. As the delegates argued over the details of the new agreement, a glass vase on a nearby table, filled with bright blue flowers from the planet's gardens, toppled off the edge, falling toward the floor. The room fell silent for a brief moment as the vase shattered into countless tiny pieces. A few gasps echoed through the air, and there was a slight shift in the atmosphere, as everyone instinctively expected someone to get up and clean the mess. But before anyone could move, Dr. Elias Rain did something no one could have predicted. Without standing, without reaching out, he simply extended his hand toward the shattered pieces. His fingers twitched, and there was an almost imperceptible hum in the air, a shift of energy that rippled through the space around him. In the blink of an eye, the shards of the broken vase reversed their paths. They rewound through the air, back into the air above the table, and reassembled themselves into their original shape. The flowers, still vibrant, reappeared whole, and the vase gently settled back onto the table as if nothing had ever happened. The room remained frozen in stunned silence. No one moved, no one spoke. Elias, sitting calmly in his seat, looked around the room with a quiet smile, the only person completely at ease with what had just occurred. He didn't speak a word. He didn't need to. His actions had done all the talking. The silence stretched on for a few more seconds before the first murmurs of disbelief began to spread. A few alien delegates exchanged confused glances, unsure whether they had witnessed what they thought they had. Some of the more powerful species, known for their long lifespans and mastery of technology, immediately assumed it was some kind of advanced human technology, a tool they had never encountered. But there were others in the room, older civilizations, who sensed that this was no technology at all. This was something deeper, something far more dangerous. They had just witnessed a manipulation of time. The reaction was immediate. The room was flooded with quiet whispers as the delegates turned their attention to Elias. He had given no warning, no explanation. Yet it was clear, this was no ordinary demonstration. The laws of nature had been bent in front of their eyes. Elias remained composed, his smile still barely noticeable. He sat back in his seat, his hands folded in front of him, as if nothing out of the ordinary had just happened. But the tension in the room was palpable now. Something had changed. The fragile human species, once seen as inconsequential, had just shown the universe a glimpse of its true potential. And they were terrified. Some of the most powerful species in the room, the ones that had long ruled the galaxy with arrogance, suddenly found themselves faced with a new, unimaginable threat. A species that had been dismissed as weak, fragile, and insignificant had, in an instant, demonstrated an ability beyond even the most advanced technologies the galaxy had ever seen. a species that could manipulate time itself. As the summit continued, the alien delegates tried to regain their composure, but the atmosphere had shifted irreparably. Nothing would be the same after this. Dr. Elias Rain had just opened a door to the unknown, and the galaxy would never forget what they had just seen. The universe's most powerful species may have underestimated humanity, but they had just realized that humans might hold the key to something far greater than anyone had imagined. The fragile species had just become the most dangerous force in the galaxy, and no one knew what Elias would do next. The days following Dr. Elias Rain's demonstration were filled with quiet fear and disbelief. The once dismissed human species had done something that no one, not even the most ancient and advanced civilizations, had ever thought possible. Time itself had been manipulated, and it was done so effortlessly, so casually, that it left the galaxy stunned and unsure of how to respond. In the following weeks, alien scholars and scientists from across the galaxy began to examine the footage, carefully dissecting every detail of the event. They could find no explanation, no trick, no hidden technology behind what Elias had done. All they knew for certain was that he had bent the very fabric of time. A few races, more skeptical than others, insisted that there must be some external factor at play, perhaps a device that had somehow caused the glass vase to appear as if it were rewound. But as more footage emerged of similar incidents where Elias exhibited his ability to manipulate time, whether it was halting the fall of a stone from a cliff or reversing the damage of a small explosion, the evidence became undeniable. Elias' power was real, and it was far beyond anything the galaxy had encountered. Behind closed doors, the conversations began in earnest. The once dismissive attitudes toward humans quickly shifted to something darker. Fear began to take root. The older civilizations, who had once dominated the stars with their superior technology and centuries-long lifespans, could not deny the implications of what Elias had done. Some of the more pacifistic species, like the peaceful Zolnari and the gentle Volsa, argued for peaceful dialogue. They proposed that humans be studied and their power understood, hoping that such a gift could be harnessed for the greater good of the galaxy. But others, the more militant and territorial factions of the Galactic Union, saw something far more dangerous. They knew that control over time was not just a powerful tool, it was a weapon. A weapon that, if misused, could destroy entire civilizations. The Karkan Empire, a ruthless and highly militarized species that had crushed entire star systems in their quest for dominance, was the first to speak out. Their representatives were quick to suggest that humans could not be trusted. They argued that a species with the ability to manipulate time could rewrite history itself, erasing entire conflicts, erasing victories, and erasing the very foundations of galactic order. In the eyes of the Karkan, the potential for tyranny was too great. Across the galaxy, a series of secret meetings were convened between powerful factions. Spies were sent to Earth to observe human behavior, hoping to find any hint of aggression or ambition. But Elias Rain was elusive. He remained calm and composed in public, offering nothing more than small, cryptic responses to those who sought answers. He didn't seem to understand the fear that his power had stirred. Or perhaps the truth was more chilling. Perhaps he understood it all too well. Within the highest circles of the Galactic Union, a growing consensus began to form. The time manipulation exhibited by Dr. Elias Rain represented an existential threat to the order of the galaxy. In hushed corridors and encrypted messages, plans were drawn up. There were whispers of intervention, covert operations to neutralize the human threat before it could become more than just a curiosity. But not all were in favor of such drastic measures. Among the more thoughtful members of the Union, such as the Venerable Eldrican Council, the idea of outright confrontation seemed reckless. Time manipulation, they acknowledged, could be a powerful asset, perhaps even a boon to galactic peace if handled properly. Some proposed opening a dialogue with humanity, to understand the source of Elias' power and whether it was unique to him, or if others on Earth were capable of similar feats. Still, The whispers of danger could not be silenced. If Elias was not the only one with this ability, humanity itself could quickly rise to become a dominant force in the galaxy, whether through conquest or peaceful influence. What would stop Earth from taking control of the galaxy's most powerful weapon? As these conversations unfolded in the shadows, Elias remained a quiet enigma. He was still mostly unknown to the general public, his actions in the summit a mere footnote in the grand narrative of galactic affairs. But in the hearts of those who knew the truth, the galaxy's complacency had already begun to crack. The human species had just demonstrated an ability to bend time itself, an ability that no one, not even the oldest, most powerful races in the galaxy, had ever believed possible. And in the minds of many, this could only mean one thing: humanity was a wild card, a species with power so unpredictable that it could change the future of the galaxy in a single moment. No one knew what Elias intended, but the galaxy would never be the same again. As the days turned into weeks, the galaxy's unease continued to grow. While the more peaceful factions of the Galactic Union debated the potential benefits of understanding humanity's newfound power, the more militaristic and strategic races began to make their intentions clear. The idea that Dr. Elias Rain had unlocked a force that could reshape the galaxy was too dangerous to ignore. His ability to manipulate time had far-reaching consequences, both positive and, if misused, catastrophic. The Karkan Empire was the first to take decisive action. Their leaders saw the time-manipulating human as an immediate threat to their dominance, and their reputation for swift, brutal measures was well known throughout the galaxy. A covert operation was devised, one that would bring Dr. Elias Rain under control, or, if necessary, neutralize him entirely. The operation, known as Mission Eclipse, was swift, calculated, and shrouded in secrecy. A group of elite Karkan operatives, trained in the arts of subterfuge and stealth, was dispatched to Earth. Their orders were clear: capture Dr. Elias Rain, study him, and prevent him from using his powers to destabilize the galaxy. For weeks, they surveilled him from a distance, learning his patterns, studying his habits, and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Elias was an enigma, calm, composed, and seemingly unaware of the mounting tension his abilities were creating. But the operatives knew that they were running out of time. Every passing day, the threat of human time manipulation grew more real, and their orders were to act before humanity's power became fully realized. The day of the capture arrived when Elias was alone, walking through a quiet, isolated park on Earth. The Karkan operatives, having infiltrated the city under the guise of diplomats, moved in swiftly. They had prepared for every contingency: tranquilizers, force fields, containment devices, and even the most sophisticated hacking tools to disable any technology that might interfere with their mission. The moment they spotted Elias, the plan was set into motion. They surrounded him. With advanced technology, they rendered him briefly immobilized, their weapons trained on him. The message was clear: submit or face force. But Elias didn't resist. He didn't even look alarmed. The operatives thought they had caught him off guard, and for a moment, they believed their success was assured. They stepped forward, binding his arms with high-tech restraints designed to limit his movement. The human was going to be brought in, and the galaxy would be one step closer to understanding his power. What they didn't account for was what happened next. The moment they touched him, time itself shifted. In a blink, the world around them froze. The operatives, caught mid-motion, suddenly became statues, frozen in the air as if time had come to a complete standstill. Their weapons were suspended, their hands halfway through their movements, their expressions locked in surprise. One operative, attempting to speak, found his voice trapped in a moment that no longer existed. Elias, still standing, appeared entirely unaffected. His face remained calm, almost amused. His fingers twitched, as if adjusting a dial only he could feel. In the eerie silence of the frozen world, he took a few steps forward, casually inspecting the operatives. He looked at their weapons, their high-tech gear, and then at the leader's face, where fear was written plainly in his wide, unblinking eyes. With a single, almost imperceptible motion, Elias reached out and reversed the flow of time for the operatives. One by one, their bodies began to unfreeze, their actions rewinding in reverse. The leader's arm, which had been poised to strike, now lowered, his hand gently returning to his side, as if he had never moved it. The silence was broken only by Elias' soft voice. "I don't appreciate being handled," he said. His tone was not one of anger, but of quiet authority. "You should have known better than to think that would work." When the operatives were fully restored to their original positions, unable to move or respond, Elias calmly turned away and began walking. He didn't give them another glance. Instead, he walked back down the path, leaving them frozen in place, the entire team paralyzed by the power of time. Before he left the scene, Elias made one final gesture. He reached into his pocket and retrieved a small note, which he casually pinned to the leader's clothing. It read, "Do not mistake patience for weakness." Then, as quickly as he had appeared, Elias vanished into the distance, leaving the Karkan operatives standing still, utterly defeated, their mission a complete failure. The message was clear. No one could contain him. Humanity, once dismissed as weak and insignificant, had just demonstrated that it was not only capable of surviving, it could bend the very laws of the universe itself. The operatives were left with nothing but a deep sense of fear and the grim realization that humanity's power was something no one had yet fully understood. The galaxy was on edge, unsure of what the next move would be. But one thing was certain. Elias Rain had just sent a powerful message, and it would not be easily forgotten. The incident with the Karkan operatives quickly became the most talked-about event across the galaxy. The story of how Dr. Elias Rain had effortlessly neutralized an entire team of the galaxy's most elite warriors with nothing more than a thought spread like wildfire. Every corner of the known universe was abuzz with a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and growing terror. In the days that followed, the galactic news networks broadcasted the footage of the failed capture attempt. The incident was analyzed and reanalyzed by experts from dozens of species, and the conclusions were always the same. Elias' ability to manipulate time wasn't a mere scientific breakthrough or a technological anomaly. It was something far more profound and dangerous. The older civilizations that had once stood as the galaxy's most powerful entities began to feel the first real stirrings of fear. For centuries, they had ruled with near-absolute authority, their advanced technologies and wisdom keeping the balance of power firmly in their hands. But now, a new force had entered the equation, one that could render their centuries of dominance utterly meaningless. Some of the more conservative factions of the Galactic Union, such as the Dravak Collective, argued that humanity's actions must be viewed with caution and restraint. Humanity is just one individual, they insisted. How dangerous can a single person be? But even they knew deep down that the potential for chaos was too great. Elias' ability to manipulate time at will had broken the laws of physics that the universe had adhered to for eons. What was possible for him? Could it be possible for others? And if that were the case, how could the galaxy ever be sure of its future again? But it wasn't just the old empires that were panicking. Even the younger species that had risen to power more recently, like the technologically advanced Stenari and the resourceful Feknan clans, began to feel the pressure. They had all benefited from the delicate balance of power in the galaxy, a balance that had been kept in place by centuries of tradition and the steady influence of the oldest races. Now, however, they faced a terrifying unknown. The Stenari, known for their vast network of communication and surveillance, immediately began implementing security measures across their homeworld. They began monitoring Earth more closely, setting up sophisticated sensors in orbit and planting agents among human populations. They needed to know everything about Elias and whether his powers were confined to him, or if other humans could tap into such abilities. As for the Feknan, a nomadic race of explorers and traders, they had long kept themselves out of galactic politics, preferring to remain neutral. But they too could not ignore the implications of Elias' power. What would happen to their trade routes if a single human with time manipulation could destroy entire fleets, erase historical events, or change the outcome of important negotiations? The entire structure of galactic commerce could be rewritten at the whim of a single person. However, there were some who still held hope, faint hope, that Elias' abilities were simply a fluke, a rare occurrence that, while remarkable, did not indicate any deeper trend. The Vulsa, an ancient species of philosophers and peacekeepers, were among them. They convened a summit of their own, attempting to broker a path forward. Their leader, the wise matriarch Isora, spoke with conviction in front of the gathered council of species. We must engage with humanity, understand them, before we let fear dictate our actions. Her belief was that Elias' power could be used for the greater good, should he choose to wield it wisely. But as the debate raged on, it became clear that the undercurrent of fear would not be easily dispelled. The notion that an entire species could possess such a volatile and unpredictable power was too much for many. No one knew if Elias was an isolated incident or the beginning of a new era for humanity. Was there another human out there who could control time just as easily? Was there a hidden race on Earth capable of similar feats? The speculation grew worse when reports from Earth began to surface, hinting that Elias might not be the only one with such powers. Whispers spread that there were other humans who exhibited strange, time-related abilities, though none were as overt or as controlled as Elias. But even the thought of more time manipulators sent shivers through the galaxy. If humanity had the potential for an entire race of beings who could wield such power, then the stakes of the galactic order had suddenly shifted in a way that no one could predict. The fear was palpable. Leaders locked themselves in council chambers, trying to decide on the best course of action. Some called for immediate retaliation, striking down any threat before it could grow. Others feared that such an act would only bring about the very destruction they sought to avoid, turning a peaceful race into a dangerous adversary. And through it all, Dr. Elias Rain remained largely silent. The human representative, the man who had shattered the galaxy's sense of security, didn't seem to care about the rising tension. He continued his work, engaging in his research, living his life with an air of calm confidence. It was almost as if he knew something the rest of the galaxy didn't, a secret hidden beneath the surface. As whispers of his power spread across the stars, one thing became clear. Humanity was no longer an insignificant species. With their control over time, they had become the galaxy's most unpredictable and potentially most dangerous wild card. The balance of power had shifted, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The growing uncertainty surrounding humanity's newfound power over time reached a boiling point. The Galactic Union, once a beacon of peace and cooperation, now found itself at a crossroads, torn between those who feared the implications of Elias Rain's abilities and those who sought to find a way to work with humanity. Despite the diplomatic talks and quiet discussions, one thing was undeniable. The balance of power in the galaxy had irrevocably shifted. As the weeks passed, the Karkan Empire continued to make its presence known, rallying other more aggressive factions to their side. They believed that humanity's power, if left unchecked, would eventually lead to their downfall. Empress Kalia, the ruthless leader of the Karkan, began to push for a preemptive strike, suggesting that the galaxy would be better off eliminating the threat before it grew too large to control. But not all shared her view. The Zalnari, longtime allies of the peaceful factions, stood in opposition, insisting that the galaxy had to seek understanding, not confrontation. A single individual does not define an entire species, argued Ambassador Thaler, a respected voice among the Zalnari. We must learn from Earth, not erase them from existence. As political factions clashed over the appropriate course of action, Dr. Elias Rain remained largely silent. He continued his research on time manipulation, seemingly unconcerned by the mounting tensions. His life on Earth had not changed much. He still walked the same quiet streets, gave the occasional public lecture, and lived with the calm demeanor that had first captivated the galaxy's attention. But as the pressure from galactic powers grew, a subtle shift began to take place. On Earth, the general populace had no idea of the true scope of what was happening beyond their planet. To them, Elias was still a brilliant scientist, a scholar with extraordinary talents. His small acts of kindness, like reversing accidents or preventing minor disasters, were viewed as little more than miracles. His abilities, though impressive, were not fully understood by the people he lived among. They saw him as a man who had discovered a way to glimpse the future or prevent misfortune, but nothing more. Yet even as Earth remained unaware, high-ranking officials in the Galactic Union began to take matters into their own hands. Small factions, often led by militaristic powers, began making covert plans to send elite strike teams to Earth. These teams were to neutralize Elias before his powers could grow more uncontrollable. Some of them even speculated that if they could capture him, they might be able to force humanity to surrender the secret of time manipulation. But no one knew how far Elias' power extended. His demonstration of reversing the fall of the vase was only the tip of the iceberg. There were rumors that he could rewind entire battles, undo death, or even alter the past. Those who had witnessed his ability firsthand were left shaken, realizing that the consequences of his power could be far more catastrophic than they had originally feared. Meanwhile, Elias was aware of the growing storm surrounding him. He had always been an observer, a quiet presence in the midst of the chaos. But now he sensed the unease in the galaxy and knew it was only a matter of time before they would come for him. He had hoped that the Galactic Union would eventually see humanity's potential and offer a partnership, one that would allow for cooperation between the stars. But now his growing suspicion told him otherwise. The galaxy was scared, and fear had a way of leading to actions that could not be undone. Elias had always believed that time was a tool, one that could be used for good or ill. But as the galaxy's fear of him deepened, he realized that his gift, his curse, might soon force him to make a choice he had never wanted to face. Would he stand with humanity and protect them, or would he be forced to fight for his own survival? One thing was certain: the galaxy had underestimated humanity once, but now that the seeds of conflict had been sown, the time for diplomacy and peace was slipping away. The first wave of covert missions had already begun to assemble in the shadows. The galaxy's leaders were preparing to act, and they would not wait much longer to put an end to the time-manipulating human before he grew too powerful. As the storm gathered on the horizon, Dr. Elias Rain could feel the weight of the galaxy's gaze upon him. He had shown them a glimpse of his power, but they had not yet seen its full potential. And soon they would learn. The galaxy was about to experience a revolution, and it would be one that would reshape everything they knew about time, power, and the future. The galaxy's response to Dr. Elias Rain had become a quiet but relentless tide, building with a certainty that threatened to drown humanity in its wake. For weeks, Elias had felt the pressure mounting around him, like a storm gathering force on the horizon. The peace he had enjoyed in his secluded existence was now a fragile illusion, quickly shattering under the weight of the galaxy's fears and suspicions. The Karkan Empire, eager to eliminate the potential threat, began making overt preparations for war. Their military forces, vast and brutal, began moving into strategic positions, their ships filling the void of space like dark shadows. Their strategy was simple: eliminate Elias Rain before humanity could fully grasp the extent of its power. The Karkan believed that taking the first strike would prevent any future devastation, and they would stop at nothing to ensure that Elias would not survive to challenge their authority. But it wasn't just the Karkan. The Dravak Collective, the secretive race of engineers and tacticians, quietly aligned themselves with the Karkan, offering their resources and knowledge of galactic warfare. Together, they forged a plan to launch a coordinated strike against Earth, hoping to strike at the heart of humanity before it could develop its own defense. The Zalnari and other pacifist factions, who had hoped for dialogue, were now trapped in the uncomfortable position of being helpless observers. Their calls for peace had gone largely ignored by the more militaristic powers. But Ambassador Thidler of the Zolnari, still committed to avoiding war, secretly reached out to Elias Rain, hoping against hope that he would listen and understand the gravity of the situation. Thidler warned him. The galaxy was preparing for action, and if Elias didn't act soon, Earth could be caught in the crossfire of an intergalactic war. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Elias was growing restless. He had always known that his time manipulation was dangerous, but until now, it had been a tool he controlled with great care. He had hoped the galaxy would accept humanity's potential, that the Union would welcome Earth into the fold as a new member, contributing to the collective knowledge of the stars. But now, as he read the encrypted messages sent by the Zolnari, the gravity of the situation hit him harder than ever before. He had always known that his power could alter the course of history, but he had never imagined that it would lead to such fear and hatred from the very beings he had hoped to join. The situation had become untenable. Elias realized he couldn't wait any longer. The galaxy wasn't going to come to him with open arms. If anything, they were preparing to strike him down. As the militaristic factions prepared their fleets and soldiers, Elias knew that his decision would be critical. He could either keep hiding or he could fight, not just for himself, but for the future of humanity. In a secluded laboratory, Elias spent hours researching and testing the limits of his power. He began pushing the boundaries of what he had previously believed was possible. He had always been cautious about changing the past, but now, with the future of humanity at stake, his resolve hardened. If he could rewind time, just enough to prevent the war from starting, would that be enough? Or would tampering with the past risk creating an even worse future? As the first reports of the Karkan fleet's movement reached Earth, Elias made his decision. He would not run. The time had come to confront the galaxy's fear head-on. He would show them the full extent of his power, not in acts of destruction, but in a demonstration of how humanity could use time itself to shape the future. But even as Elias prepared to take action, he knew the risks. Time was a double-edged sword. Every alteration, every manipulation, had consequences. He could change the outcome of a battle, but at what cost? What would be the collateral damage? Could he control the ripple effects that would spread across the galaxy? These questions weighed heavily on him, but he had no other choice. The galaxy was on the brink of war, and Elias Rain, the man with the power to change everything, had just made his final move. The stage was set. The countdown had begun. The storm was coming. The tension in the galaxy had reached a boiling point. News of the Karkan fleet's movements had spread quickly through the stars, signaling that the time for diplomacy had passed. On Earth, Elias Rain prepared himself for a confrontation unlike any he had ever imagined. The stakes were no longer personal. They were global, and possibly even galactic. He had no illusions about the weight of the decision before him. His power over time had always been a source of great responsibility. He had carefully used it to help people, to prevent tragedies, but now he realized the true potential and the true danger of what he could do. His ability to manipulate time could change the course of events on a massive scale. It could halt the advance of the Karkan, but it could also unravel everything. Elias knew that if he reversed time to prevent the Karkan strike, it would be more than just a small tweak in history. It could alter relationships, create unintended ripple effects, and possibly lead to an even worse situation. The risk was immense, but the alternative was far worse: war, destruction, and the destruction of his homeworld. Standing before a mirror in his laboratory, Elias stared at his own reflection, as if looking for an answer in his own eyes. He had never asked for this power. He had never sought to become the galaxy's most powerful entity. Yet here he was, holding the future of two worlds in his hands. The question that plagued him was not whether he should act, but how he should act. If he reversed time to undo the Karkan's preparations, would it bring peace, or would the galaxy only grow more fearful of humanity? Would it show them that time itself could be manipulated, or would it simply highlight the depths of his power, making him a target for other, even more aggressive factions? As Elias pondered his options, a message from Ambassador Thaler arrived in his inbox. The voice of the peaceful Zolnari echoed in his mind as he read the words aloud. "You must understand, Elias, this is not just about stopping the Karkin. It is about showing the galaxy that humanity can lead with wisdom, not fear. We are not like the others, who seek to control with brute force. We believe in the potential of your kind, but only if you show us that you can be trusted." It was a simple message, but one that struck Elias deeply. The Zolnari didn't just want him to stop the war. They wanted him to show that humanity was not like the other violent factions that ruled the galaxy with their fists. The galaxy needed to see restraint, not power. Wisdom, not domination. Elias had always known that his power over time was unique, but he had never realized how much it defined his place in the universe. If he used his abilities recklessly, the galaxy would see him as just another tyrant, one more conqueror among the stars. But if he used it with restraint, with a sense of responsibility, he might be able to change the galaxy's perception of humanity. Maybe then, the fear would subside. He made his choice. Elias would not erase the threat of the Karkin by reversing time. Instead, he would confront it directly. He would show the galaxy the full extent of his power, but he would do so with purpose. He would not undo the present moment. He would confront it head-on, with the courage to face the consequences. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in weeks, his mind was clear. He could feel the flow of time all around him, the past, the present, and the future intertwined like an intricate web. He could feel the pull of each possible decision, but he chose to walk forward, taking control of the moment instead of trying to rewrite it. Elias activated his communicator and sent a broadcast out to the galaxy, a message for all who would listen. "I am Dr. Elias Rain. I have the power to change time itself, but I will not use it to control the future through fear. I will not bow to the threats of empires, nor will I let the galaxy be torn apart by conflict. I am a human, and I believe that we can find a way to shape the future together, without the need for war. I offer the galaxy this: peace, if you will choose it." The broadcast was simple, but its impact would be far-reaching. For the first time, the galaxy heard from the one person they had feared. And in his words, there was no arrogance, no desire for conquest, just a quiet, resolute call for unity. As the broadcast ended, Elias knew that the war was not over. It had only just begun. But for the first time in this conflict, he felt that he had taken control, not of time, but of his own fate, and the fate of humanity. Now, it was up to the galaxy to choose how to respond. "You said." The response from the galaxy was immediate, and it was unlike anything Elias had expected. For the first time since his powers had been revealed, he saw the full weight of the galaxy's fear and awe concentrated on him. The message he had sent resonated across the stars, reaching the ears of both rulers and civilians, scholars and soldiers. Every sentient being in the galaxy now knew that Dr. Elias Rain, a single human, had the power to reshape reality itself. But despite his hopes, peace was not immediate. In fact, the response was divided. Some factions, like the Zolnari, felt a sense of cautious optimism. They appreciated his restraint, his message of peace. They began reaching out to Earth, offering diplomatic channels to explore how to stabilize the situation. The Synari followed suit, offering their advanced technology to help monitor Earth's growing influence. These factions, though still wary, were open to conversation. However, the more militaristic factions, the Karkin and their allies, including the Dravok Collective, saw Elias' message as a sign of weakness. To them, peace was an illusion. They saw a man who could control time, who had demonstrated his power and restraint, and they interpreted it as a threat they could not ignore. The Karkin, emboldened by their military might, accelerated their plans, ready to strike Earth with full force, believing that they could crush humanity's rising influence before it could spread further. As the Karkin warships moved closer to Earth's orbit, tensions rose to a critical point. Ambassador Thaler of the Zolnari attempted to mediate once more, urging the Karkin to delay their assault and consider the path Elias had laid out. "This is not just about power. This is about the future of our galaxy," Thaler pleaded, but his words fell on deaf ears. The Karkin had made up their minds. The stage was set for a devastating conflict, and Elias knew that the only way to prevent total destruction was to act decisively. He could feel the Karkin fleet's approach, the crushing weight of the warships looming over Earth like a gathering storm. But Elias wasn't the same man who had first discovered his ability to manipulate time. He had learned, perhaps the most crucial lesson of all, that power without wisdom was as dangerous as chaos itself. He had already made one choice, to resist rewriting time for personal gain. And now he made another, to take a stand and protect humanity from destruction, but to do so with clarity, not rage. He activated a private communication with Empress Kalia of the Karkin Empire. Her cold, calculating voice came through the comms almost immediately. "You think a message of peace will stop us?" she sneered. "We've seen what you can do, human. We've seen your power, and we know that you will only become a threat to us." Elias stood tall, his expression unwavering. "I don't seek to threaten you, Empress, but I won't let you destroy Earth. Not today, not ever. The galaxy has its chance at peace, but only if you allow it." A silence hung in the air. The Karkin Empress, a ruler known for her ruthless pragmatism, considered his words carefully. After a moment, she spoke again, but this time there was something different in her tone, a hint of uncertainty. "You think you can stop me?" "I don't think I can stop you. I know I can," Elias said quietly. "Not with force, not with weapons, but with time itself." And then, for the first time since the tensions had started, Elias did something that left the galaxy breathless. He activated his time manipulation ability, but this time it was not to reverse an event or undo a mistake. This time, Elias used his power to freeze time itself, not for long, but just enough to buy Earth and its people a few crucial moments. The Karkin fleet, advancing at full speed, came to a complete halt, frozen in place. He could feel the weight of the galaxy's collective gaze on him, aware that his actions had crossed a line. He held the fate of billions in his hands. For one brief moment, time itself was his to command. But Elias didn't use it to impose control. Instead, he sent one final message to the galaxy. "I will not let time be a weapon. But I will not stand idle while innocents are hurt. The galaxy is at a crossroads. Choose peace or choose war. The choice is yours." With that, Elias released his hold on time, allowing the natural flow to resume. The message was clear. The galaxy had been given a choice, to fight or to listen. And as the Karkin fleet remained suspended in space, it was clear that Elias' reign had just shaken the galaxy to its core, forcing them to confront not just his power, but the future they were all heading toward. The ball was now in their court.